to take a second before I start this episode. I have to take a second. Take a second and to just embrace the moment. Take a second to just be present and take a second to accept what I'm actually about to broadcast, what I'm actually about to share with you all. Now, you guys know that I have guests. I have guests on my podcast. And Ashley and I were supposed to go live and talk about her domestic violence relationship and how she turned that into a major love story, like a major success. But technical difficulties, it happens in life. We're going to keep it moving. So I think, not even I think, the Spirit said, come on here and talk about grieving. Come on here and talk about the passing of your mother, how I had to grieve through that, how I had to accept that, how I had to heal through that. So this podcast episode is going to be very raw and uncut, very transparent, and very heartfelt. Like, if I shed a tear, I shed a tear. I won't be long, but I am going to be honest. As long as I'm honest with you and give you my raw truth, like give you my raw truth of what I seen growing up, how I found my mom on her last breath. Before we get into this podcast is sponsored by Claiming My Abundance Academy, where we help faith-based women find their voice, find identity, unpack their story to build legacy. This is what we need in this world. So if you are looking to get coached in that arena, if you are looking to start living your truth, listen, text coach to 470-466-9464. This episode is Accept the Lost and Healed. Where do I begin? Grieving. Grieving is something that is going to take place in life. Grieving is something that, unfortunately, the loss of a loved one, the loss of something that means so much to you is going to take place in life. But unfortunately, we can't stop that. We have to find how to bounce back from that. We have to find how to accept, forgive, and still love with an open heart after we lost something so dear to us. So if you are listening to this and you are in a season where, you're losing loved ones, or you lost your mom, right? You lost a parent. Parents, I am here to tell you that you can survive that loss. You can survive. You can bounce back. And we got to start understanding, which I didn't understand at first. So I'm here to help you understand that it's not happening to us. It's happening for us. And when I lost my mom, I felt like, why me? Something was happening to me. Why is this happening to me? But here's the thing. While my mom was suffering, I was suffering too. I was suffering because that's not the life that I seen myself having. Having my mom wheelchair bound, kidney failure, her abusing substance and deteriorating and destroying her life, right? I was the only girl. So I wanted a sister, but my mom and dad didn't have a sister. They didn't give me a sister. So I needed a bond with a woman growing up. And so our bond was tight, but it was also very loose. And our bond was loose because she was fighting addictions, fighting her own battles, whereby she didn't know how to love. She didn't know how to love me. She tried. She was a loving woman, very much loving woman, but she didn't know how to love me the way I needed to be loved. And that's what matters the most. It wasn't, she my mom, she gave birth to me, she gonna love me the way she knows how, and that was it. But that's not enough when you are seeking help as you go through puberty, when you are going through relationship issues and you want somebody to talk to that you can trust. Not saying I didn't trust my mom, but seeing the way she was with men, I'm like, I need some healthy advice. But nevertheless, my mom was amazing. She was a Cancer. She had a heart full of gold, and she loved me to the best ability. She would fight battles for me. She would go to war for me. So let me give my beautiful angel her flowers. But as I got older and I started to realize that her lifestyle just wasn't conducive to what I wanted and what I seen for myself at a very young age. So let me fast forward and give you the story of how I found her this way and how I had to grieve. So my mom started to go to dialysis, and she was going to dialysis 3 times out the week: Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. Excuse me. And it really broke my heart as I seen her decline. You know, she always had this vibrant energy, vibrant skin, always, got herself together. But when she got when she got diagnosed with kidney failure, all that changed. Her skin started to darken. She started to lose hair, and she could no longer walk. So I seen my mom in a wheelchair. I had to live with that every day. And I'm like, is this really happening? And when you have kidney failure, you don't want to get a transplant. Like, she didn't want to get a transplant because she would have to be on 15 medications, like 15 pills every day. So even, waking up and getting her ready for her appointments on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I was like, it would break my heart. So if you are in a space where you have a parent that needs you, if you have a parent that is, their health is declining, don't decline them. Be patient with them. Support them. Take your time. I know it's hard if you're a single mom and in a relationship and you got to take care of a parent. But one thing that, and I won't beat myself up on this episode, but one thing I will say is that I wish I would have spent more time with her. I wish I wouldn't have just ran to my boyfriends at the time. I wish I really would have spent time with her. But the time I did spend with her, it was intimate, right? I would comb her hair. I would get her dressed. But I'm still learning me at 21, 22, 23, just trying to figure out life. So she got diagnosed with kidney failure, and they didn't tell us right away what it was until she did like extensive lab work. So when she did extensive lab work, if I could be raw and uncut, they came back and they found they found drugs in her blood. Okay. And this is hard for me to share to the public, but this is a part of my trauma. This is a part of what I had to witness in my early 20s. So I'm like, wait, so your health declined, mom, because you were hiding drugs, like you were taking drugs? And so, I mean, this was a conversation I had to have with her. So after we had the conversation, it was like it opened up a door for her to continue to indulge in drugs even more on the next level, because I guess she felt comfortable now. I guess she felt relieved now. I guess she felt like, okay, the cat is out the hat. I'm on drugs. I was devastated. I would see my other friends with their moms, my boyfriends with their moms, and I'm like, man, I wish I had this. Nobody would never knew. No, nobody would have never known that my mom was on drugs. Nobody would have never, because of my spirit and my attitude was always positive. So I say 2 years after she got diagnosed with kidney failure, like her health started to go downhill quicker. And throughout the journey of her having the kidney failure, she took drugs even more. She detached herself from the pain. She detached herself from the fact that she has kidney failure. She detached herself. And that was healing to her. She didn't want to be in that world. She didn't want to be in her reality. So she took drugs. And I'm just like, wow, do I accept this because my mom is suffering from this diagnosis? Do I accept this? What do I do? But I mean, it was times where my mom would sneak and do drugs. And when I would come in the house, and now hear me out, if you're listening to me, this is the trauma that I had to deal with. So, and this is something I unpacked this with a therapist. Absolutely, I have. But, and this is why I'm able to tell my story. This is why I'm able to say, mom is my angel, or mom died in the same sentence, or my mom was on drugs. This is how I'm able to say this in the same sentence, because I healed from it. She was doing the drugs heavy while in the wheelchair and on kidney failure. She wanted to run away from the pain. So I subconsciously accepted that. I said, okay, this woman is in pain. She needs help. This is the only comfort. That's just what it is. I would come into the house, because I was still living with her at the time. I would come into the house and check on her, and I would smell the activity that she was doing. I would smell it. Even found spoons, y'all. Yes. I know what I'm saying. It's like, wow, you really saying this right now? I'm really saying this right now. And this is actually healing for me. And I'm really proud of myself at this moment to really share this on this episode. But it wasn't easy in the beginning. I just felt like, let me go out here in this world and just do whatever. Heck, my mom is out here doing whatever. I don't have, women examples in my life. So let me go out here and do whatever. Let me say this. If you're listening to this and you're like, this is somewhat of my story, join the Facebook group. Claim it my abundance Facebook group. I'm there. I'm there because I want you to be able to unpack that feeling that you feel, that pain that you feel after losing a mom, or even having a mom in your life to not love you properly, to call you out your name. My mom called me out my name, right? That could have been my identity. I was every name under the sun that you can think of. And I'm just like, I had to look at it and say, this is not really her. This is not really her. So when I realized it wasn't really her and she was suffering from things, I shook it off. When she would call me out my name and she would say certain things to me about having boyfriends, y'all, I would laugh it off. But here's the thing. I don't want you to laugh it off. If this is your current situation, I want you to grieve, accept it, and heal from it. So let me say this. Our parents can't help what they lack. Our parents can't help what they wasn't exposed to or what they weren't taught. They can't help that. Even though it's no crutch or no excuse to say why you can't become a better mother or father, that's no excuse, because you should be able to identify what you lack, your parenting skills. Is it effective enough? Right? You should be able to check in with your children. But if you have parents that's just not really there to understand your right now and understand your heart and hear your heart, they're just out there in the world, get help. Seek help, because I ran to men. That was my outlet. Men, alcohol, going out. So after my mom passed and we did the funeral and everything, y'all, did the funeral. It was this particular young woman who was close to my mom and who would do my hair. And I'll never forget the day. It's like it's playing in my head right now. She would do my hair, and she did my hair one day, and she asked me, how's your mom doing? How's your mom doing? Do y'all know I told her, like, my mom is good. After I buried her, I said, my mom is doing good. She's all right. Quick denial. I was ashamed. Don't know why. I was embarrassed. Don't know why. Matter of fact, I do know why. I was ashamed and embarrassed because I wanted to paint this pretty picture like everything was perfect. I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of them asking more questions about her addiction. I didn't want to get into that. But that when I said to her, oh, my mom is okay, after I buried my mom, what happened was I started to cry. I started to cry. Tears came running down my eyes. That was the moment I started to grieve and heal. And I thank God that she asked me that and my emotions took its turn. I thank God for that, because otherwise I would have really damaged myself. Keeping this image up, knowing that my mom is gone, I would have damaged myself. A part of me growing up, ladies, a part of me growing up, I wanted everything to be perfect. Even though I never became jealous, I was never jealous of another woman when I would see them with their mom in their relationship. I was never jealous, right? Even though I didn't have that perfect life and that perfect relationship I wanted with my mom, I thank God that I never had a jealous bone in my body. And to this day, I don't. I encourage women to have a relationship with their mom. I embrace other women when I meet them in there with their mom. So I that was the moment. That was the moment that I had started to grieve and heal. When she asked me that and I lied, I'm like, I cannot keep up with this lie. What? Are you serious? So we cried, they hugged me, and a new chapter, a new chapter in my book opened. I opened a new chapter in my book that same day. And I had to sit with that. I had to realize what I just shared with this young woman, like, my mom is dead. And she was like, what? I had to go home and journal this stuff. I had to sit with this stuff. I had to internalize it. See, here's the thing about grieving. Here's the thing about loss. When you lose a loved one, you have to come to a point where you internalize it. Not self-sabotage yourself, but internalize the event that took place in your life. See, often what we do when we lose somebody, or when we go through a tragic moment in our life, what we tend to do is brush it off, right? We brush it off. We go find something else to cover up the pain. Same thing she did with drugs. And we create a pattern. So one thing as helping women heal and unpack their story, I talk about what are your pains and what are your patterns. What are your pains and what are your patterns? Because whatever those pains are, you can correlate them with patterns. So are these healthy patterns or unhealthy patterns? That's what we got to look at. So right now in your life, what are some unhealthy patterns that you can associate with trauma or pain? What are some painful events that cause you to have unhealthy patterns? Look at that. Take a deep dive and look at that. So my mom passing and seeing her on drugs, the pattern I created was I didn't get on drugs, right? But I started to drink heavily. And I'm talking about no chaser type drinker. Half a pint of whatever I wanted to wash down the pain. Another thing I did was get tattoos. I got tattoos, y'all. That was the first thing I wanted to do. Just go get tattoos to, cover up the pain. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a psychological thing, but I got tattoos. I got her face. I got her face on my arm. Never thought I would have somebody's face on my body. Not saying that was an unhealthy pattern, but that was just something I did. I had sex with men that I knew didn't love me. Let's talk about that. I mean, trauma bonding, right? I started to be this, even though I told my story, or even though I told the girl what happened, I started to tell people my story, like, yeah, my mom passed from being on drugs. I still felt a sense of, I need comfort. I need something to make me feel like I'm okay. I need something to keep me in my place. I didn't go to therapy right away. I didn't tell people that I should have right away. No. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And when I would, be in situationships with men that I knew didn't love me, I knew they didn't love me. But I had to look at, why are you doing this? I was doing this because my dad left at 13. Let's talk about that. And I didn't really get to experience that masculine fatherly love growing up as well. I didn't really get to experience real love from a man. After my mom passed, my dad was already gone. I'm just it's rough. It's rough for me. Like it's so grieving, I had to internalize my whole situation and not use other things to cover it up. Once I internalized it, I accepted it. And I said, wow, she's really gone. Wow. This is I really found her on her last breath. Like I found my mom on her last breath. I found her on her last breath, y'all. And you would think that I would probably have been in some type of mental health, complex or, outpatient, because that's traumatizing, right? Like to be able to walk in the house and see your mom, not walk in the house, but walk out the bathroom and see your mom on her last breath. Long story short, what it was with kidney failure, you can't really urinate like that. With kidney failure, you don't really urinate like that, right? So one particular night, she was like, can you put me on a commode? And I'm like, okay, no problem. A commode is a handheld portable toilet that, you can use the bathroom on. So she said, can you put me on a commode? And I thought she was going to be on there for a while because with kidney failure, you rarely urinate. So I put her on a commode. I said, okay, let me go take a shower. She's going to be on there for a minute. I'm not going to take a long time in the shower. Went in the shower, got out, and I didn't hear her say my name. My nickname was Nene, but that don't mean y'all can call me Nene. I didn't hear her say my name. I didn't hear any noise or anything. So I go back into the living room. I'm like, let me go check on mom. I go back into the living room and I see this. I'm like, okay. Homegirl fell asleep. She was tired. She fell asleep. So I said, Mom, she didn't say anything. So I went over to her and I looked her in her face, and her mouth was also the same way her face was, right? So I said, Mom, shaking her, no response. So as a CNA, I know where to check your pulses. You check your pulse here, you check your pulse here, and you check the heart rate. No pulse. I said, hold on, let me check this again. I checked her pulse again. No pulse. So immediately, I felt the spirit and I heard the spirit say, she is your angel. When I tell y'all, I didn't scream, I didn't jump, I didn't yell, I didn't call 911. I just stood there and I said, again, another chapter in my book. So at the time I was in a relationship, I called my boyfriend, called my brothers. They were like going crazy. And I'm like, y'all doing all this? She took her wings. So I still, even at that point, there was no tears shared. There was no, I think my heart, I think my emotions just became very numb. And so, which is why grieving is very important, and being able to internalize and accept and even verbally say the event that has took place. Y'all, I wasn't able to verbally say my mom took her last breath. I wasn't able to verbalize that. So a part of my grieving process was me being able to verbalize the trauma, verbalize the pain, because I wasn't going to say nothing. The enemy wanted to keep my mouth shut. I'm talking about but see, when you don't speak up, when you don't talk about what trauma you have, when you don't talk about the pain, all you do is let this stuff run in your head, play in your head over and over again, and you create this identity for yourself, and then you act like everything is okay, but you really crying in the inside. You're really hurting in the inside. And so I know that silence, fighting battles in silence is deadly. It's deadly. So again, if you're going through something like this, or you've been through something like this, the first part of grieving is speaking, being able to hear the words that are literally coming out of your mouth, being able to literally say, my mom neglected me, my dad abused me. Like, you gotta say it, you gotta announce it. See, like, when, I don't know if you ever, seen someone become an outpatient at a, mental health complex, and they're asking the person, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong? And the person can't really say it. They can't verbalize it for whatever reason. Their heart and their mind has a disconnect. And that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't want to believe it, and I didn't want to feel it, but I was really feeling it, but I just didn't want to believe it. So I could not say it. I did not want to say it. And to that day, that young lady asked me that, and I said, I got to say this today. So losing my mom turned out to work in my to work on my behalf. God always works on our behalf. God always works in mysterious ways. And hear me out when I say that. My mom was no longer suffering. I was no longer suffering. And I started to live free. Because even when she was alive and she was doing drugs, I wasn't able to tell people that. I was hiding that part. I wasn't free. I was hiding that part of my story. And now I'm broadcasting it to the world that this is what took place. So if you're in a season where grieving needs to take place, say what happened, verbalize it, internalize it, and do the necessary work to heal from it. So every time I would say, my mom passed, my mom is my angel, my mom died, blah, 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 a layer of me became stronger. Another layer of me became healed. Another layer of me accepted it because I was able to verbalize it. Then when I seen how my life started to progress after that, I said, okay, God, it had to happen like this. It happened for me. It happened for me, not just to me, but for me. So, I mean, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. But if you have to cry and you're listening to me right now, shed that tear, right? That's what these episodes are about. And don't forget to get in the Facebook community, Claiming My Abundance. I am really going to be pouring everything out, like all my trauma. And this is even healing for me. Being on here right now, y'all don't know it, but every episode heals me. One, with my guests, because I can connect with their trauma, knowing that they, had similar decision making skills that I did. Being with men who didn't, care about your well being. But I knew that they didn't care about my well being. I just wanted to get comfort. I wanted comfort, and because I didn't have my dad, I wanted it from a man, right? And so when a man that I would connect with, their mom was on drugs, they were doing some type of drug, probably just smoking marijuana, I was okay with that. I'm like, boom, trauma bond. Even though that's not the word that I said, trauma bond, that's what it was. I stayed there. Now, here's the thing though. My relationships, like when I actually had boyfriends for real, they loved me dearly. Like, they took me in and treated me like a princess, even though they may not have known, like, literally how to deal with a young woman going through what I was going through in college, working, like real self-sufficient, but they still found a way to love me. And I think what it was I was a very nurturing at a young age. I gave motherly love even to my brothers. Like, I'm 6 years old and me and my brothers in the backseat of a car and I'm like, put your seatbelt on. And, so my aura and my energy was always just motherly love. Right. And I mean, so I had boyfriends that really loved me. But then the men that I dealt with, it was just like, okay, come on, let's trauma bond. So a part of grieving, don't trauma bond, sis. If you see, I'll say this. If somebody you connect with and their mom is was on drugs too, or currently on drugs, if this is your situation, what you need to be cognitive of is he patient, right? Listen to his heart. What is his decision making skills on a daily basis? What are his patterns? How do he speak about his mom, right? Is he loving or is he angry? Because if he's not patient, if he's not kind with that situation, if he's enabling her and giving her money, he need therapy. But if he's kind, patient, and he has boundaries, you make him work with him. Just don't trauma bond. Just don't trauma bond, because trauma bond can turn into traumatic kids, traumatic co-parenting. Now the cycle repeats. So I thank God that I didn't have any children by any man that I was, trauma bonding with. I thank God for that. Right. And even if you don't meet a man that share that same trauma, one way to grieve, get in community. Get in community. Go to classes where, women are dealing with the same thing. No dad, mom on drugs, mom passed away, still trying to figure out why. Like, what do you do next? Get in community, because I didn't cry a lot either. I didn't cry a lot, y'all. And even now, I really don't. And I think because I seen it coming, and even though earlier in the episode I said I wish I would have been there more for her, I was really heavily there. I was really involved in her transition. And I think because I was involved, my heart didn't hurt as much. It didn't hurt as much. But if your heart is hurting from this and you can't take it no more, do not silence yourself. Grieve. Accept it. Because a loss is really a game, and you really don't figure that out until months later, maybe even years later. Like, wow, I see why this had to happen. And the moment in my life when I realized that I knew it had to happen is because I stepped into entrepreneurship. I stepped into entrepreneurship and my life became demanding, right? It came demanding. I was able to see clear. I was able to work clear. I was able to create. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that my mom would have prohibited me from being in this space, but I feel like I would have had a lot of pressure on me. And I would have felt maybe a little guilty for not being there for her, because I got to go file disputes, right? I got to do consultations all day, but she calling me to go to the grocery store and get her something. I would have felt guilty. That would have ate me up. Then now at the end of the day, she calling me out my name, right? So entrepreneurship allowed me to see why it had to happen. It did. I didn't know at first, because who wants to be like, oh, it's happening to me. It's a good thing that's happening. We don't think that way. But then when God puts you in a situation, in a position that he trusts you in to start serving and to start really finding identity, you're like, okay, I get it. I get it. I get it. So listen, as I'm closing out on this episode, I hope you connected with everything I said. I hope something resonated with you to literally grieve and to literally break any unhealthy patterns that you may be indulging in right now, because is you can be the one to break the cycle. You could be the one to break the chain. You could be the one to Start a new life. If your family, other people in your family on drugs, right? They're alcoholics, whatever the case may be. It could start with you. It started with me. It started with me. So listen, I love you. You are light. You are love. Even though it seems dark, I stayed that light. That's how I knew God wanted something bigger than my situation, bigger than myself, bigger than I can even imagine. And me telling my story, not knowing who gonna hear this, makes me happy. It makes me happy because it's not for me. It makes me happy because somebody will listen to this, even if it's one ear, well, 2 ears, but one person with 2 ears, and say, I am not alone. My mission for Claiming My Abundance podcast is complete. Hands down. All right. So grieving is important. Accepting the loss and healing is important. And you're going to be okay. Like, time heals wound. But if you do the work while the clock is ticking and you look up, you're going to be so proud of yourself. You're going to be like, I understand why it had to happen to me. So follow us on YouTube. Well, you're already here on YouTube if you're watching this once we put this up here. But make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you comment. Make sure you do all those good things so I know that this episode resonated with you. Make sure you share this with somebody that you know that is going through this if it's not you. This is a real thing that's happening in real life every day. And this was my life at one point. So share this with somebody. All right? But other than that, just make sure you survive everything that you think is meant to destroy you. Like, this really, my mom, me going through that event in my life, it developed me on a whole nother level. It literally developed me. All right? So y'all stay blessed until the next episode, and see y'all later. I'm free. I'm human.